I didn't see the crime, but I heard the rounds. I knew that something bad had happened.
And what did you do?
Ran to my vehicle.
And did you go after the Nissan?
Absolutely.
Right. Where did you catch up to the Nissan?
So when I got to my vehicle, that vehicle, as soon as the subject got into the passenger side, I can't even determine the speed it was going. It was racing through the parking lot violently. There was a red truck that I had to block or cut off to get behind the vehicle, and I picked the vehicle up on Merrill Road exiting the Publix parking lot.
There's a lot of people swearing that Ksoo gonna be found guilty, but I'ma shoot straight to the key points and prove to you why Ksoo gonna beat this case. Now, first of all is the height. He's way taller than 6 feet with rubber sneakers on. You'll see the rundown on that. And secondly, Dominique Barner has admitted to several murders. And also the jury knows that he's trying to escape all these murders by telling on Ksoo. But the jury can easily be like, well, since you done admitted to all these murders and you trying to work for a deal, yet Ksoo is fighting one murder and we don't even much know if he did it, we'll just find him not guilty just so we can send your dog ass down for all your murders, because they know you a savage killer and they know you the one that stalked the victim, not Ksoo. And as for you, the jury don't trust you. They don't trust your sneaky ass at all.
It gets different with first-degree murder, doesn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were fully aware of that difference, weren't you?
Yes, ma'am.
So you knew that both of those murders, if you didn't come to some kind of deal, were gonna go to first-degree murder, right?
Right.
So in August of 2020, you decided, I'm gonna look out for me, right?
Correct.
If you testify that it was not Hakeem Robinson that was the shooter, you don't get the deal. If you say it was someone else, you
Now
don't
they're
get the
trying to
deal.
use this garbage right here as far as this the only him holding a gun, but when I go on the net and think with common sense, I mean, how else are you gonna hold a small Uzi type weapon like this? Especially if you're running with it. Now notice how all their fingers is pointed the same way. It's the same match. So this shit right here, that shit garbage. That shit ain't gonna stand at all. See what Ksoo had at? The bottom of the tape is 6 feet. The top is at least 1 inch thick, making him 6'1". But when his legs is close together, you can see his top of his head is at least 1 more inch over the top, making him 6'2". Now, this guy is not 6'2", and this guy is not 6'2", because then that would have made McCormick at least 6 foot. But on this one, they saying he's at least 5'10". Yet the witnesses that saw the shooter says they're around 5'5" to 5'9". Yet the police officer said they're around 5'6" to 5'8", 5'9". But when you look over here, he's at least 6'2" or 6'3". This guy is not 6'2" or 6'3". That means, once again, McCormick would be at least 6 foot, 5'11". And Ksoo weighs 230. This guy right here is not 230 pounds.
Could you restate your question again, please, sir?
Feet together.
At no point in the protocol were they told to put their feet together.
Now, again, we're talking about, small margins. You'd agree with that?
I would agree with that, sir. Yes.
The information that you get from the medical examiner's office, when they measure height, they're not doing it with somebody's shoes on.
No, they're not. They're doing it with the bare foot.
K1 is wearing shoes,
That is correct.
and that would add some degree of height.
That is correct. Yes.
The sole of the shoe.
The sole which you add to the total height of the individual. That is correct.
Now, you do this comparison in between K1 and Q1 to say, quote unquote, he's at least as tall as Mr. McCormick.
That is correct.
What if I were to tell you that yesterday the medical examiner testified that the 70 inches, the 5'10", was just an estimate?
That would not surprise me.
In that I asked him the question, could he have been 5'9"? Answer, yes. Could he have been 5'11"? Answer yes. So on here, on this exhibit that you have going to the jury, you can't say that Mr. McCormick with the inch shoes and a potential of an inch shorter or an inch taller was exactly 5'10". That's an estimate.
Correct, that is an estimate. That is correct.
Within a range of a couple of inches.
That would be a fair assessment, yes.
All right. Now, what we do know is that without being aware that he's being measured for height, without having his feet together and standing up straight, his head, or the crown of his head, and again, we can't tell because of the hair, appears to be, and if we look at the slide that's in the middle, this one right here, that he's above the tape.
Remember Stepper told you that the jury do not trust this sneaky ass nigga here.
You're actually no stranger to the witness stand, are you?
As far as
you
like right now,
testified?
yeah. As far as right now, yeah.
Meaning, you've testified a lot, right? I mean, we just established you had 3 depositions in this case, correct?
Right.
And you've also testified in the Jermaine DeVos case, correct?
Correct.
And that was an interesting case. It wasn't in this courthouse, was it?
No.
It was in the old courthouse, right?
No, it was in this courthouse.
Oh, it was in this courthouse. So you were in one of these beautiful courtrooms, right?
Yeah.
And you walked right in, and a judge was sitting where her honor is sitting, right?
Right.
And the clerk swore you in, and you raised your right hand, just like you did today, and swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, right?
Right.
And then you lied, right? Didn't you lie in the Jermaine DeVos case to make sure that he got out of jail?
Yeah, I lied in the deposition.
Okay,
But I
you
didn't
lied.
lie at the hearing.
Oh, so you just lied under oath in a deposition.
Got him! Got him!
And you lied under oath after swearing to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Got
You're
him!
explaining to us knowingly and intentionally lied, correct?
Oh!
In a criminal case, right?
Right.
And what was interesting about this lie is this was a lie to help him get out of jail, right?
Right.
Not because you liked him, right? Not because he was your friend,
Whoa! Whoa!
right? You wanted to chase him down, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Hold on. So he lied for his op to get out of jail, but he willing to tell the truth so his friends can go to jail? You gotta. You. Boy. What? What? He's the worst kind of liar. He is the worst kind of liar. Boy, you don't want this man as your enemy or your friend. Because you ain't gonna know which one he is.
The plea deal for Varner applied for both cases. His deal means he could serve as little as 20 years in prison. And this is something both defense attorneys didn't hesitate to bring up.
You see what I circled?
I see what you're referring to, sir. It looks like again, evaluating that image right now, it looks like his hair has moved, not necessarily the position of the crown of his head.
Now again, we don't have great posture, but at all times you'd agree that he's at least eclipsing the bottom of the tape.
I would agree with that, yes.
Case got trial next week. 2 weeks from now. Hey, chat spam, free Ksoo, man.
Bottom of the tape is 6 feet.
That is correct.
The thickness of the tape, 1 to 2 inches.
I'm not aware of the thickness of the tape that they used. It appears it would be consistent with a half-inch to approximately half-inch of tape.
When you say they, you're talking about your people.
The sampling team, correct.
All right, so it's your team that's going out there, so presumably it's your tape.
Correct, and remember that that was a positive control, a reference, if you will, to why the scans are going on, to do a quick spot check. We know that that bottom of that tape is 6 foot, and that was the purpose. Also, the square boxes with the little circles are a verification target.
Now perhaps we can come to an agreement, an estimate, the top of the tape. 6'1", around, give or take?
Between 6.5 and 6'1" would be a reasonable assessment if it was a half-inch or a 1-inch piece of tape. Yes.
All right. So standing here today, are you able to say that Mr. Robinson, that his accurate standing height is actually 6 feet and what would that be, about 6 feet, half-inch?
Approximately. That number would come out to about 6 feet, half-inch.
With proper posture, he could be 6'1", 6'2"?
That is a possibility within the range. If that was a specific exam that was to determine his height, we would be more precise about the position we would put him in, but the focus of this exam was not to measure the height of the individuals.
The government flew you all the way in from Colorado?
That is correct.
They paid for it?
They will pay for it, yes, that is correct.
And that doesn't go to the 70, 80,000 you've already been paid?
No, that does not.
There's nothing stopping you from taking a tape measure, measuring Mr. Robinson in front of these juries right now, right?
Scientifically, I would not agree to that for many reasons. With a tape measure, the accuracy is just not there. We'd have to have controls, we'd have to have calibrated devices. I would want to measure him 3 times. There are different ways that we would measure him if we weren't going to laser scan him here in the courtroom.
All right, so Mr. Latham, you just told us with all the equipment that you guys brought in and all the scans and all of that it's still not accurate. What I'm asking you is if you had Mr. Robinson stand up, heels against a wall, and you had a stadiometer, you know what that is, right?
I'm not familiar with what that is.
All right, so you went to the doctors as a kid, right?
Yes, I did.
Stand on the scale, and that metal bar, they put it up and they measure you. That's the stadiometer.
Okay.
You could use that to measure him. You could do that and get more precise than was done with all the lasers and the scans in the digital stuff.
It all depends on the quality of the device and the calibration of that device. The device that was used to scan these individuals was over $100,000, and the individuals that used it had well over 40 hours of training specifically on that device. And the exam, if I'm asked to do a height determination, that is a completely different type of exam than a body morphology analysis. So what I'm saying, counselor, is the scan itself, if you came to me and said, I want to know the definitive height of this individual, then I would have developed a completely different protocol. The most efficient way would be shave the hair off the head and then measure to the crown of the head. But that's a bit intrusive, so we would have to go about that process in different scientific, repeatable, and accurate ways to determine the height.
Measuring him with a ruler doesn't cost 70 or 80 grand, does it?
I don't believe it does.
All right. At the end of the day, and perhaps we can agree on this, you could give the accurate height of Mr. Robinson, but they didn't ask you to do that.
I was not asked to determine the height of any of the individuals specifically. As a result, in a conclusion, some of those heights were determined through various empirical means and through the data that which we collected.
All right. Now, when you say you were never asked, the only one that would be asking you is them, the government, right?
That would be my client. Well,
motion.
They're in different positions in a similar bend to the major joints, but they're in a similar position, yes.
When the body moves, it drops down, right?
Yes, during the gait and stride, the height of the individual can change.
And you can't say that based on their body posture, the way that their muscles are contracting, the joints are bent, that they're at exactly the same degree of drop.
I would agree with that. They're not in the exact same positions.
Now, let's talk about Q1. Excuse me. There we go. All right. So, Mr. Latham, what I have on the left is your slide 37. You recognize that, right?
Yes, I do.
And on the right, what I have is a still photo from the dash cam. Now, you can see from the hedge, the photo that I have is a few frames before, and the reason why is because your analysis, the one that you have, everything is past the hedge. All right, so, and we'll go back over and I can show you, but in your example, you only show the body once it's moved past that hedge. But I want you to look at something here. On the right, there's something up underneath that hood, right?
I would assume so, yes.
You can't say where the crown of the head is.
No, I cannot.
You can't say whether that adds an inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, right?
That's correct, I cannot assess that.
All right. Now on the left, with your overlay. Now the overlay, the yellow thing, that is the model that you created based on the scan of Mr. Robinson, right?
That is correct.
In the scan of Mr. Robinson, he had no shoes on, right?
That's correct. Yes.
And he had no clothes on.
Could you restate that, counselor? Could you restate your first statement, please?
Of course. And it wasn't fair, so I need to clarify that. The shooter was covered, long sleeves, pants, and you don't know what was underneath. Fair?
That's correct. That's a fair statement. Yeah.
When Mr. Robinson was scanned, he was wearing an Under Armour workout shirt and workout shorts.
That is correct.
No shoes on.
No shoes on. That is correct.
Nothing on his head.
Nothing on his head other than his hair.
All right. Now, in your overlay, the model, the yellow outline of Mr. Robinson, nothing on his head, no shoes, not the same amount of clothes, is the same size as the shooter, wearing shoes adding 1 inch, wearing clothes with you don't know how many layers. In the head, the top of the yellow line, again, Mr. Robinson, when you make that model, doesn't have anything on his head, is at the top of whatever's under that hood. You see that, right?
I'm a little confused, counselor. Can we clarify? The image on the left is not that is not the scan of K2. That is the kinematic model overlay to verify the model. That is not the scan of. We did not take the scan of any individual and place them back in the video over Q1. What is represented on the left is actually the kinematic model itself to assess the joint position of that model for this particular frame. That model on the left is not K2.
Is your testimony that model is not created by the scans that you made?
The model that was...
Let me withdraw that and re-ask it for you so it's crystal clear. You have Kip Stavro, you have Mark Johnson that come all the way down here to scan all the people, right?
That's correct.
Then Mark Johnson makes the kinematic model.
Based on the camera match overlay from the Q1 images only.
You lose me with all the science jargon.
They went down, they did the scan. When we took the video and we laid it over the 3D point cloud, we only used the video camera match overlay, that stitched together 2D, 3D, to generate that kinematic model of Q1. At no time did K2, 3, or 4 were they used for the purpose of generating that kinematic model.
So explain to this jury, what is this yellow line then?
The yellow line is the outline of what they call the skin of the model. When we generate these models, we identify it as a humanoid, so the major joints are in this model. And then the joints are moved to match the appearance of the cam-match overlay frame. The yellow line is the outer boundaries of that, so we can see how well that model fits that particular frame. Then we go to the next frame and repeat that process.
I'm with you now. What you're talking about is, what you're really looking at is where the joints are.
It's not only where the joints are, because this is what we call, here's another term, iterative process. You go to the first frame, you develop the model. Then you go to the second frame, and that model carries over to the next frame, and you move the joints. It doesn't mean that you can lengthen or shorten a given angle.
Hear me out.
Yes, sir.
So I want to make sure to this jury, you're not saying that is an outline of the body of Mr. Robinson matched up against a shooter. You're not saying that.
Absolutely not, it is not.
But you created this model based on where his joints are.
Where the Q1 joints were on the camera match overlay frames.
Again, right over my head. What I'm asking you is this yellow model, is that in any way influenced by the joint placement of my client, Mr. Robinson?
No, it is not.
So then what's the relevance of this? How is Mr. Robinson being analyzed here?
The relevance is we have an unknown individual depicted in a video. We have 3 individuals that we have the luxury of getting very detailed data from those individuals. The individuals in this video, both the decedent and the Q1 individual, we never see them standing up. The power of the body morphology analysis is, if we model the Q1 individual correctly, repeatably, accurately, in the 3D space at scale, we can put that model in any position we want, including standing upright, feet together, feet apart, feet very, very apart. That allows us to go back into the laboratory and take the video data, once we confirm the model matches, and then take any scanned person on the planet and do an analysis in any position. In traditional height determination, the subject of the evaluation must be standing relatively erect. We must be able to see the feet, knees, hips, crown of the head. In this case, I can't see the crown of the head of Q1. They're wearing a head covering. They're in a running position, so I never see this individual standing relatively, they're not walking through the scene where we can see at some point their feet are close together and they're in a relatively stable position. Here they're running. The only way to forensically and scientifically evaluate the overall size of this individual was to generate this kinematic model and in 3D space stand it up. Then with that Q1 model stood up, we have very accurate, very detailed data of 3 individuals. We then placed those side by side. That was the final slides where you have the Q1 shooter in the running position. You then have the Q1 model, and then we have K2, 3, and 4 standing side by side.
All right, so we've explained to the jury, this is not you trying to say that it matches up, but you took this model that you made, and then you compared it to the scan of my client.
That is correct.
Okay, and you can say within a certain degree it could be him.
It's possible, yes, it could be.
All right. Not beyond a reasonable doubt?
I don't have any data to assess any strength of that relationship.
All right, what you're looking at, you're not looking at the overall match. You're not looking, does a shooter have a belly? Does my client have a belly? You're not looking at that.
No, we're particularly in this exam, we're looking at the large bone joints and, hips, knees, ankles, shoulders. And again, the head was in there, but not as a reference point because again, in Q1, we cannot see the crown or top of the head or where the hair ends or begins. And even if there is hair.
You're not taking a look, for instance, the shooter on the right. Your Honor, if I can be crass, he ain't got no butt. Flat. Right?
It's the anatomy of that individual is the anatomy of that individual depicted in the image.
But you didn't have your experts go, let's take a look and see if that's consistent with Mr. Robinson, right?
No, I did not.
All right, but what you're looking at, Mr. Robinson, stand up here for me. What you're looking at is where his elbow is, right? Where his wrist is, right?
Correct.
Where his shoulders are.
Correct.
Hips.
Correct.
Knees.
Correct.
So to exclude anybody that's roughly the same high as Mr. Robinson, you'd have to scan all of those people, right?
That would be the most accurate to do it to give apples to apples comparison of the protocol that we used, yes.
Sitting here today, you couldn't exclude me as a shooter.
Without doing the exam and putting you through the same protocol that everybody else went through, I would not be comfortable opining about your relationship to any of this.
Now, last thing, with respect to my client and his joints and all of that, there was nothing unique about it. He doesn't have a third arm, an extra knee.
Not that I'm aware of.
It's consistent with a human being.
It's consistent with a bipedal human being.
Now, well, you say bipedal. We're all bipedal.
Some individuals only have one leg, some individuals have none, so I would classify them as non-bipedal.
Okay, so at best what you can tell this jury is that the shooter was a human being with both legs, right?
Correct.
Could be white, could be black, could be other.
Race is unknown, that is correct.
Could be male, could be female.
Gender is unknown, that is correct.
Could be heavy, could be average.
Weight was not assessed in this examination, that is correct.
Could be 5'9", could be 6'3".
The height of the individuals in this exam were not evaluated in a forensic manner.
Your Honor, if I could have one moment.
Okay.
Fuck that dumb shit y'all talking about, cause that stepper named Ksoo is coming home, cause there's too much snake shit going on. And the jury gonna make you, Mr. Barnes, eat all them murders your goofy ass done admitted to. So you praying your testimony gonna get Ksoo a guilty sentence, but it done backfired on you. Cause it's going to stay in the jury's mind all through the trial that you will say anything and lie on anybody in order to spare all your bodies to save your life from getting a life sentence. Instead, they'll give you 20 years. Your ass is baked chicken. So So like, comment, and subscribe, man. Steppers Us TV. We stepping up out of here. And always remember to stay dangerous on your every move and bliss on every down if you have to.